Captain Vex-Nine adjusted his sensor array for the third time in 10 minutes, watching the Human Academy through his ship's observation deck. The Galactic Defense Consortium had sent him here to evaluate these bipedal mammals who'd somehow convinced the galaxy they deserved military training privileges. Ridiculous, he muttered, his mandibles clicking in frustration. Humans. They can barely figure out faster than light travel without blowing themselves up, and now they want to learn siege warfare. And his aide, Lieutenant Zorb, floated beside him in her containment suit. Sir, the exam parameters have been uploaded to their facility. Standard 3-hour siege simulation. Should be educational. Vex-Nine's 4 eyes rolled in unison. 3 hours. That's how long it took civilized species to properly demonstrate tactical prowess, strategic thinking, and military discipline. The Thrakari took exactly 2 hours and 57 minutes. The melody finished in 2 hours and 43 minutes, but only because they sang their battle hymns too long. Even the war-crazed Brutok managed it in 2 hours and 12 minutes. But humans, these soft, pink creatures who insisted on consuming liquid stimulants before making any important decisions, he'd give them 4 hours, maybe 5, before they gave up entirely. Contact their instructor, Vex-Nine commanded. Let's get this embarrassment over with. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a human female with short brown hair and the most unsettling feature of her species, those tiny LED eyes that somehow managed to look directly at you instead of scanning for threats like any sensible predator. Captain Vex-Nine, I presume. Her voice carried that odd human inflection they called confidence. How quaint. I'm Commander Maria Santos, head instructor at Terra Defense Academy. Commander Santos. Vex-Nine's translator struggled with the human name. We are here to observe your species' attempt at our standard siege simulation examination. I trust your students are prepared for failure. Santos smiled. Vex-Nine's skin crawled. Humans showing teeth meant either aggression or amusement, and their facial expressions were so limited it was impossible to tell which. Oh, they're prepared all right. Quick question though, Captain. Do you want the 3-hour version or the 9-minute one? The silence stretched across the communication channel like a dying star's final gasp. Vex-Nine's translator made several confused beeping sounds. Excuse me, Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked rapidly. Did your primitive translation device malfunction? 9 minutes. That's not even enough time to analyze the defensive perimeter, let alone formulate a proper assault strategy. Right, 9 minutes it is then. Santos turned away from the screen. Cadet Williams set up the accelerated scenario. Captain here wants to see the express version. Wait. Vex-Nine's voice cracked like a teenager going through molt season. The standard examination is 3 hours for a reason. It tests strategic planning, resource management, tactical flexibility. Oh, don't worry. Santos faced the screen again, that terrifying smile widening. It tests all those things, just faster. Lieutenant Zorb whispered through her suit's communicator, Sir, perhaps we should observe the standard version first. For comparison purposes. But Vex-Nine's pride was already wounded. No species had ever suggested a shorter version of a consortium examination. The very idea was insulting, preposterous, and, well, morbidly fascinating. Fine, he said, trying to sound authoritative rather than confused. Show us this 9-minute version. But when your students fail spectacularly, don't expect any special consideration from the consortium. Understood, Captain. Broadcasting the scenario now. The display shifted to show a massive training facility, easily the size of a small moon. Holographic projections created a besieged fortress, complete with energy shields, automated defense turrets, and a garrison of simulated enemies. The objective was simple: break the siege, neutralize the defenses, and capture the central command structure. Standard doctrine required careful reconnaissance, resource allocation, coordinated assault waves, and contingency planning. The consortium's military textbooks dedicated entire chapters to siege methodology. Vex-Nine had written 2 of those chapters himself. Beginning simulation in 3, 2, 1 mark. What happened next would haunt Vex-Nine's dreams for the next 6 standard years. The human force didn't begin with reconnaissance. They didn't establish a defensive perimeter. They didn't even pause to analyze the enemy's defensive capabilities. Instead, a single human cadet, whose name tag read Williams, looked at the massive fortress, shrugged, and said, "Hey guys, remember when Jake blew up that abandoned space station last week?" "Yeah," shouted another cadet. "The one where he overloaded the gravity generator?" "That's the one." Williams grinned. "Anyone see a gravity generator in this fortress?" Vex-Nine's 4 eyes widened in horror. "They're not actually going to." Williams was already sprinting toward the fortress's lower levels, followed by what appeared to be the entire human assault team. No formation, no covering fire, no tactical discipline whatsoever. Just 30 humans running like caffeinated mammals toward certain death. This is madness. Vex-Nine shouted at the screen. "They'll be cut down by the perimeter defenses before they get within 100 meters. The perimeter defenses opened fire. Automated turrets tracked the humans with deadly precision, energy beams lancing through the air where the humans should have been. Except the humans weren't there anymore." Vex-Nine watched in stunned silence as the human assault team scattered like startled prey animals, but somehow every energy beam missed its target. They weren't following any evasion pattern he recognized. They weren't using cover effectively. They were just moving randomly. "How are they?" Lieutenant Zorb whispered. "I don't know," Vex-Nine replied, his voice hollow. Williams reached the fortress's base level and immediately began tearing apart what looked like a maintenance panel. Within seconds, he'd exposed the internal power grid. Without any apparent knowledge of fortress design or electrical engineering, he began rerouting power connections with the casual confidence of someone who'd clearly done this before. "Jake," Williams called over his shoulder. "Remember, blue wires carry the gravitational field stabilizers." "Got it." Jake, another human who'd somehow materialized inside the fortress without triggering any alarms, began pulling apart a different panel entirely. "Hey, this looks just like my mum's food replicator." "Your mum's food replicator has gravitational field stabilizers?" asked a third human. "Doesn't everyone's?" Vex-Nine felt something inside his brain snap. No, food replicators do not have gravitational field stabilizers. That's not how any of this works. On screen, Jake had apparently found whatever he was looking for. With the same casual disregard for safety protocols that seemed to define his species, he began connecting power feeds in a configuration that should have been impossible. Guys?" called another cadet. "Is the fortress supposed to be floating?" The massive holographic fortress was indeed beginning to lift off the ground. Not all at once, but in a slow, uncontrolled rotation that suggested its artificial gravity field was failing catastrophically. "Williams, you magnificent bastard!" Jake whooped with joy. "It's working." Working. Vex-Nine's voice reached a pitch that threatened to shatter his ship's viewports. Working. They're destroying the entire simulation. The fortress, now spinning lazily through the air like a drunken space whale, began firing its defense turrets wildly. Without a stable platform, the automated systems couldn't target anything effectively. Energy beams scattered in random directions, while the fortress's own garrison tumbled helplessly through corridors that were no longer oriented with any recognizable concept of up or down. "Commander Santos," Vex-Nine said, his voice trembling with either rage or admiration, he couldn't tell which. "Your cadets have just committed what might be the most spectacular violation of siege warfare doctrine in galactic history." Santos nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, they tend to do that." Williams. Status report. Williams, who was now hanging upside down from what used to be the fortress's main entrance, gave a thumbs up. "Central command structure is approximately 30 meters that way." He pointed toward what appeared to be empty space. That way turned out to be correct. As the fortress continued its slow tumble, the central command chamber rotated into view. Its blast doors sealed tight but now accessible thanks to the complete absence of gravitational orientation. Jake, displaying the kind of three-dimensional thinking that came naturally to a species raised in rotating space habitats, launched himself from the fortress's hull and sailed gracefully through the vacuum toward the command chamber. He landed with practiced ease, pulled out what looked suspiciously like a standard emergency door tool, and began cutting through the blast doors. Time remaining, Williams called out. 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Santos replied, "Plenty of time." Jake's voice came through the communication channel. "Hey, does anyone know how to operate a Thrakari command console?" "Same as Melody, right?" asked Williams. No. Vex-Nine found himself shouting instructions at the screen despite himself. Thrakari interfaces are quantum encrypted. You need a bioneural link to even access the basic functions. Jake paused in his cutting. Bioneural link? Like with your brain? Yes, exactly. It's impossible for non-Thrakari species too. Cool. Jake pressed his hand against the console interface. The console immediately lit up with full administrative access. Vex-Nine's brain made a small popping sound. Jake said, studying the alien interface. "This is way easier than my mum's food replicator." The simulation timer showed 6 minutes, 42 seconds remaining when Jake announced, "Got it. Fortress command structure is officially captured. All defensive systems are down, garrison has surrendered, and..." He paused, reading the display. "Apparently I also accidentally ordered lunch for the entire enemy force. Hope they like sandwiches." The simulation ended with a cheerful beep. Total elapsed time, 9 minutes, 18 seconds. Commander Santos appeared on screen again, that terrifying human smile wider than ever. "Sorry about the extra 18 seconds, Captain." Williams gets a bit creative with the gravity generators. Vex-Nine stared at the display in absolute silence. His 4 eyes blinked independently, each one trying to process what he'd just witnessed from a different angle. "That," he began, then stopped. He tried again. The fortress was a third attempt. How did they even? Lieutenant Zorb floated closer to her captain's chair. "Should I file the standard examination failure report?" "Failure?" Vex-Nine's voice cracked again. "Failure? Zorb, they just completed a siege simulation in 9 minutes. The fastest time in consortium history was 47 minutes, set by the Keth Prime Military Academy, and that was with advanced knowledge of the fortress layout. But sir, they violated every protocol. They ignored standard tactical doctrine. They destroyed half the simulation environment. They won." Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked slowly. "In 9 minutes. Using gravity as a weapon against a fortress specifically designed to be impregnable." On screen, the human cadets were celebrating by doing something called high fives, which involved slapping their hands together repeatedly. The sound was disturbing. Commander Santos leaned into the camera. "So, Captain, should we show you the 3-hour version now? It's a bit more thorough." Vex-Nine's species didn't normally experience what humans called existential dread, but he was beginning to understand the concept. "Commander Santos," he said carefully, "when you say more thorough, what exactly?" "Well, in the long version they actually follow proper siege doctrine. Reconnaissance, tactical planning, coordinated assault waves, the whole thing. Very professional." "And how long does that usually take them?" Santos consulted her notes. "Last time, 43 minutes. But that included a 15-minute lunch break because Williams got hungry." "Or lunch break. During a siege simulation. Human metabolism requires regular nutrition intake," Santos explained with the tone of someone who'd had this conversation before. "Can't fight on an empty stomach." Vex-Nine looked at Lieutenant Zorb. Zorb looked at Vex-Nine. Neither of them said anything for a long moment. Finally, Vex-Nine asked the question that would change everything. Commander Santos, how many students do you have in your advanced tactical program? This semester. About 300. Why? 300 humans who can do what we just watched. Oh no, Santos laughed. Williams and Jake are special cases. Most of our students would need at least 15 minutes for something like this. Vex-Nine felt his worldview crumbling like a sandcastle in a solar storm. 15 minutes. For what the consortium considered a 3-hour examination. Captain? Lieutenant Zorb's voice was very small. What exactly are we going to tell the consortium command? Vex-Nine stared at the screen, where the human cadets were now attempting to play some sort of game using the floating fortress as a ball. The massive structure spun lazily through space while humans in environmental suits kicked off its hull, laughing in that disturbing way their species did when they found something amusing. Zorb, he said slowly, I think we're going to need a bigger report. 3 days later, Vex-Nine found himself in the most uncomfortable position of his military career, sitting across from High Admiral Keth Moore, Supreme Commander of Consortium Forces, trying to explain why his routine evaluation report had caused a galaxy-wide security alert. Let me understand this correctly, Captain. The Admiral's voice rumbled through the conference chamber like distant thunder. You're telling me that these humans completed our most advanced siege simulation in 9 minutes? 9 minutes and 18 seconds, sir, Vex-Nine corrected, immediately regretting his precision. They were apologetic about the extra time. Admiral Keth Moore's 6 arms gestured in the traditional Kethian expression of disbelief. Around the conference table, representatives from 12 different species shifted uncomfortably. The Melody delegation had started humming what sounded like a funeral dirge. Captain, interrupted General Thax Prime of the Brutok Empire, his scarred face twisting into what might have been confusion. The Brutok Shock Corps hold the current speed record at 47 minutes. Are you suggesting these soft mammals outperformed our finest warriors? Well, sir, technically they didn't outperform them. They completely ignored every tactical principle your warriors used and somehow achieved victory through. Vex-Nine paused, consulting his notes. Quote, making the big floaty castle dizzy until the bad guys fell down. End quote. The silence that followed was so profound that Vex-Nine could hear his own breathing apparatus cycling. Dr. Yil Fen, the consortium's chief synopsychologist, leaned forward with obvious interest. Captain, did you observe any signs of advanced tactical AI assistance? Hidden technology? Some form of hive mind coordination? No, ma'am. In fact, I recorded several instances where they actively argued about the best approach. One cadet suggested using explosives. Another wanted to ask nicely if they could just surrender. The winning strategy came from someone who remembered his friend breaking his mother's kitchen appliance. His mother's what now? General Thax Prime's voice rose to a dangerous pitch. Food preparation device, sir. Apparently it shared some design similarities with Fortress gravitational systems. Admiral Keth Moore's primary hands pressed against his temples. Captain Vex-Nine, please tell me you have video evidence of these events. Yes, sir. Complete tactical recordings from 17 different angles. Vex-Nine activated his holographic display. I should warn you, sir, the content may be disturbing to conventional military thinking. The recording began with Williams approaching the Fortress gravity generator. Every species representative watched with growing horror as the human cadet began his casual dismantling of what should have been an impregnable defense system. Stop, Admiral Keth Moore commanded when Williams started connecting power feeds in a completely random pattern. Replay that section. Slowly. The hologram showed Williams' hands moving with surprising certainty, connecting conduits that by all rights should have created a massive explosion. He's not guessing, Dr. Yil Fen observed quietly. Look at his movement patterns. He knows exactly which connections to make. But how? General Thax Prime demanded. Our fortress designs are classified at the highest levels. Only senior engineering corps have access to gravitational system schematics. Vex-Nine cleared his throat nervously. Sir, according to Commander Santos, human civilian technology apparently includes personal gravitational manipulation devices in their homes. For what purpose? Food preparation, sir. The Melody delegation's humming shifted to what Vex-Nine recognized as their traditional song of existential confusion. Continue the recording, Admiral Keth Moore ordered. They watched Jake's impossible access to the Thrakari command console. When the bio-neural interface activated under his touch, the Thrakari representative, Ambassador QX-Nil, made a sound like a dying star. That's impossible, QX-Nil whispered. Our neural interfaces are genetically coded. No non-Thrakari nervous system should be able to. How compatible is human neurology with Thrakari systems? Dr. Yilfen asked. It shouldn't be compatible at all. Humans use electrical neural impulses, we use quantum-entangled synaptic cascades. It's like trying to interface a primitive calculator with a dimensional matrix. And yet Vex-Nine said quietly it worked. The recording continued through Jake's casual navigation of the command system, his accidental lunch order for the enemy garrison, and the final surrender notification. When it ended, the conference chamber remained silent for exactly 47 seconds. Vex-Nine counted them. Admiral, General Thax Prime said carefully, what are the strategic implications of this information? Admiral Keth Moore's expression had shifted from confusion to something approaching terror. If humans can interface with Thrakari technology, access Kethian gravitational systems, and somehow predict Melody defensive patterns. Sir, Dr. Yilfen interrupted, I don't think they predicted anything. I think they just improvised. Improvised. Ambassador QX-Nil's voice cracked. They improvised their way through 12 layers of quantum encryption. According to their instructor, this was considered a routine training exercise, Vex-Nine added helpfully. She mentioned that their advanced students could probably do it faster. The Melody delegation stopped humming entirely. In their culture, this was equivalent to a declaration of war. Admiral Keth Moore stood slowly, his 6 arms moving in what Vex-Nine recognized as the ceremonial gesture of profound military concern. Captain, I need you to return to the Human Academy immediately. Sir? I want you to observe their advanced tactical programs, all of them. Full documentation. And Captain. The Admiral's voice carried the weight of impending galactic restructuring. Find out what they considered difficult. 2 weeks later, Vex-Nine sat in Commander Santos' office, his mental state somewhere between awe and complete psychological breakdown. On the desk between them lay his latest report, 300 pages of tactical observations that read like fiction. So Santos said, pouring herself another cup of that stimulant liquid humans seem to require for consciousness, how are you adjusting to our teaching methods? Vex-Nine's 4 eyes twitched independently. Commander, yesterday I watched your students neutralize a theoretical planetary invasion using nothing but modified mining equipment and a flock of trained birds. Oh, that was Lisa's project. She's studying agricultural defense systems. Pretty creative solution, right? Creative. Vex-Nine tested the word like it might explode. Commander, the consortium's best military minds spent 6 months developing that invasion scenario. Your students solved it during their lunch break. Well, they were motivated. Pizza day in the cafeteria. And the day before that, Cadet Williams designed a new type of space fortification using principles he learned from. Vex-Nine consulted his notes. Sandwich architecture? Layered defense systems, Santos nodded approvingly. Bread filling bread. Multiple redundant barriers with resource management between layers. It's actually quite sophisticated when you think about it. I've stopped thinking about it, Vex-Nine admitted. My brain makes alarming noises when I try. Santos leaned back in her chair. Captain, can I ask you something? Why is the consortium so interested in our tactical programs? Vex-Nine considered his words carefully. Commander, in the past month your students have revolutionized siege warfare, invented 17 new defensive strategies, and somehow discovered 3 major flaws in our most secure military installations. And they did it all by accident. Accident. Cadet Rodriguez wasn't trying to create a new stealth technology when he spilled paint on his uniform. He was just trying to hide the stain from his instructor. But it worked, right? The adaptive camouflage effect. It worked so well that our best sensors can't detect it. He's currently invisible to every scanning technology in the galaxy. Vex-Nine's voice carried a note of hysteria. We lost him for 6 hours yesterday because he forgot to turn it off. Santos nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, Miguel does that sometimes. We've learned to just wait for him to get hungry. He always shows up in the cafeteria eventually. Commander Santos, Vex-Nine said carefully, the consortium would like to discuss a formal alliance with Earth's military academy. Oh? Santos raised an eyebrow. What kind of alliance? The kind where we promise never to fight you and you promise to maybe share some of your tactical innovations. Also, we'd like to hire Williams as a consultant. What's the pay? Whatever he wants. Seriously. Name any price. The consortium treasury has been authorized to offer him an entire star system if necessary. Santos laughed, that disturbing sound humans made when they found something amusing. I'll ask him, but I think he's pretty happy here. Besides, he's got his mum's food replicator to fix next weekend. His mother's food replicator, Vex-Nine repeated slowly. The one with gravitational field stabilizers. That's the one. Been making weird noises lately. Williams thinks it might be developing interdimensional phase variants. Vex-Nine felt something inside his mind quietly give up. Commander, does every human household contain potentially galaxy-altering technology? Well, not every household. Some people just have the basic models. Basic models of what? You know, standard stuff. Gravitational manipulation, quantum food processing, dimensional storage units, temporal adjustment systems. Temporal adjustment systems? For keeping food fresh longer. Nothing fancy. Vex-Nine stood up on shaking legs. Commander Santos, I need to make a call to Consortium Command. Sure thing. Use the phone on my desk. Just hit the red button for interstellar long distance. As Vex-Nine reached for the communication device, he paused. Commander, one last question. What do humans consider actually difficult? Santos thought for a moment. Parallel parking, mostly, and assembling furniture with those little instruction booklets. Oh, and figuring out why the cafeteria's ice cream machine is always broken. Ice cream machine? Yeah, it's been malfunctioning for 3 months. Engineering students can redesign Starship engines, but nobody can fix that stupid machine. Vex-Nine looked at the broken ice cream machine visible through Santos' office window, then at the humans casually revolutionizing galactic warfare during their study breaks. Commander, he said quietly, I think I need to lie down. Infirmary's down the hall, second door on the left. Just don't touch anything that looks important. Last week, a student accidentally invented a new type of medical scanner while trying to fix a broken chair. As Vex-Nine stumbled toward the door, Santos called after him, "Oh, and Captain. When you call Consortium Command, tell them we're happy to demonstrate the 3-hour version of the siege simulation anytime they want." What happens in the 3-hour version? Vex-Nine asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Santos smiled that terrifying human smile. Well, that's when they really get creative. The last thing Vex-Nine heard before his consciousness finally gave up was the sound of human laughter echoing through the halls of an academy that had just accidentally conquered the galaxy through the simple expedient of treating impossible problems like broken kitchen appliances. Somewhere in the distance, an ice cream machine continued its mechanical death rattle, the one piece of technology in the entire facility that humans apparently couldn't fix. Yet,